Welcome to Talit Sufra Dinner Table. Today I want to talk to you about something political. I try not to talk about that, but this is political. I'm not going to be taking sides. I'm just explaining things from my perspective. This morning we woke up to the news that the United States had captured the president of another country and brought him here and had him went to court and indicted him, all that stuff that I'm not really very familiar with. But what that did is brought back memories of how Saddam was captured, how the United States went to Iraq and had a war, and Saddam Hussein was captured. Let me tell you something. When a president abuses his own people, Saddam did that, and this president is did that too. When people of that country are so fed up and cannot live, they're being destroyed every day. They wake up to a life they have no idea if it's going to get any better. They're all very unhappy. They can't make it in life. They have to always be like a robot. They have to say yes, yes, yes. Everybody is right. They're afraid of everything around them. They don't have enough money to eat, even though they're smart and capable of working, but there is no work. And even if they work, there's no money to be made. During the embargo in Iraq, people were making, it doesn't matter what their degree is in, they were making no more than $2 a month. What Saddam did, he made sure that the people were busy all day long, just making ends meet and feeding their families. So the Iraqi people were in line most of the day, trying to get rations for their rice, their flour, their tea, sugar. Every day there's something else that they have to stand in line for to get the rations so they can take home, and their wives will spend the majority of the time just making the bread and making the whatever. And then once a year he would say, okay, let's celebrate my birthday and let's give every family one chicken. Of course, everything was blamed on United States is the one that's not given us all this. I'm not sure if that's the case or not, and it doesn't matter to me. But prior to that, prior to the Iraq War, prior to he invaded Kuwait, and prior to all of this, Saddam was abusive to his own people. He wanted to spread terror within the country. People were afraid of him. At the same time, what he did is he turned around to the countries around him and used them. So, for example, when there was an embargo and he could not, people in there, he did not have money to do anything in the country because it was all food for money for food for oil, something like that is what the program was called. What he did is he found ways to make himself rich, even richer, by leaning on the countries around him. So what he did is he would send tankers of oil from Iraq to the surrounding countries like Syria and Jordan. He never liked those countries. He never wanted to work with those countries prior to that, but now he needs them. So let's say that the oil, the gallon or whatever, the barrel is, let's say, $100 everywhere else. He would sell it to them for $50. Well, that $50 is extra $50 in his bank. There's this all profit. He didn't have to do anything for it. His people inside the country are working around the clock, and he's paying them just $2 a month and calling it the embargo, blaming the United States for what they were in, the life that they were having. And he was sending those tankers, those oil to the surrounding countries, for example, like I said, Jordan and Syria. And they in turn either used it and made profit off of it to their own people, sold it to their own people, or sold it outside the country and made even more profit. So those countries were enriched. Those countries loved Saddam. They wanted Saddam to stay. And everybody in the Arab world thought Saddam was the best person. He was the one who was he talked the big talk. He said he was going to eliminate, or he was going to fight Israel. He said he was going to free Palestine. He said all those things. He never did. He just talked. In the meantime, he was thinking about how he can make his pocket richer, and himself and his kids. And that's what, in the meantime, he was abusing his people. If the area where there was a lot of people who were on the opposite side of his political side, he would terrorize them. I know that I met with some female that came here right after the war in Iraq, and they were saying that people would go to school, kids will go to school, and then never make it back home, and their families are afraid to ask, to find out where they are, because they know that they were taken by the government, and they know that if they ask, they're the ones who are going to be losing their lives too. They knew that they were either put in prison or they're dead. So there was thousands and thousands of stories like that, day in and day out. Everybody in Iraq was in fear. There were just very few select people that knew the trick, knew how to, appease and say wonderful things about Saddam, and managed to brainwash themselves about how great he was. And they are the ones that he took care of, and the rest of the people were not living well. Now, I'm saying all that as an Iraqi expat that left before Saddam came to power. I'm saying all this as people who were living in Iraq, who didn't want to live anymore. They were so depressed, they didn't see light at the end of any tunnel. Some of my friends that I grew up with that had the same standards as me, their parents and their families made good money, they weren't able to take their kids to school because they didn't have shoes to buy their kids so they can go to school. They would call me and ask me for any money, anything that I can send them so they can actually live, send their kids to school, and just make it to the next day. None of those people needed to be living like that. Iraq was and still is a very rich country. So all of that was unnecessary. He was being very abusive to his own people. It's just like when you have like one of the neighbors, where the neighbor leaves the house and goes around and says, "Hello, how are you? I hope you have a great day. How wonderful life is, whatever." And then he goes home and beat up on his family and wife and kids. And no, the kids are in fear for saying anything. The wife is fearful for saying anything, and they don't know how to do anything. So what they do, they'll find a window of opportunity. They keep looking around and finding that one small window of opportunity to let someone know that the way that they're living, the life that they're living, how they can, how can they explain that to somebody on the outside. And that's what Iraqis did. I mean, we all know what he did to the Kurdish people in Halabja in 1996. It was obvious. So Iraqis wanted United States to go and get rid of Saddam, and a lot of people in Iraq wanted Saddam to leave. And Saddam wasn't going to leave; he was benefiting from it. So the war of Iraq wasn't something that the United States just wanted to go. The war of Iraq was based on the terror that he was imposing on his people. Mind you, if Saddam was treating his family, his Iraqis, a little bit different, none of this would have happened. None of this would have happened. People would not have left and went and begged every country outside the neighborhood, outside the Arab world, and say, please come and get rid of Saddam. But they did. There were a lot of people that were funded by different groups here in the United States and in England and in France and a lot of places around the UN, begging every opportunity, please come and get rid of Saddam. And the war happened. Now, it wasn't planned right, and it didn't go as right as if there was a plan, it didn't go as planned. And then what happened after that? The day that they captured Saddam. This is why I wanted to bring all of that to tell you about Saddam. The day they captured Saddam, it was like about 4 o'clock in the morning, Eastern time, New York time, when Bremer came on TV and said the famous phrase, ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
I remember I had been outside the country, outside Iraq from 1978, and this was 2004 or December 2003. So that was 25 years later. And I had not been in Iraq at all during that time. So I don't have that relation to Iraq. But those words, and when he came and said that, made me cry, made me so emotional that finally this abusive person got caught. It wasn't about Iraq. It wasn't about anything. It was someone who was abusive to his own people, someone who hurt his own family, someone who did everything possible to hurt the people he was sucking every ounce of blood out of them and hurting them. And they found him. At 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm picking up the phone and calling my friends everywhere in the United States and in Iraq, and every one of them was up at that time. Every one of them would say to me, as soon as I call, they say, we heard, isn't it great, isn't it great? Now, he didn't hurt me personally, but I saw the pain in all the people of the Iraq people that he was hurting. I knew it more than others because I have ties to that country. I know what was happening. Now, what I know is a lot less than the people who have actually families that were being hurt even worse. Those people, like when they say he killed my cousin, the people that say he threw my brother-in-law in this pool of nitros. These kind of things these people had not committed crimes. They were from the area that he wanted to spread terror, so those people will never think about having a coup on him. That's what a murderer. This is how someone with a sick mind, a dictator to the level where he's just very cruel, vicious, everything, a bad person, and has no feeling whatsoever about hurting people who had not done anything to hurt him. This is his own people, his own family. How in the world did we get someone of that mentality, that someone that bad, to be a president and control 20 million people? And today, they captured someone that was doing the same thing. When I see all around the United States and in outside the United States, when people are dancing in the streets and happy and jumping with joy and having parties and music and whatever, they don't know how to express their happiness because of what happened, because they see a glimpse of freedom. We don't know how the country is going to be. We don't know which way it's going to go, because that's what we didn't know about Iraq. Iraq suffered for the longest time and went in a negative way. It went very bad. There were a lot of people that hated Saddam, hated the condition after Saddam even more. So that's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is one person who comes in and hurts his own family purposely and doesn't care. doesn't have that compassion, doesn't have that feeling that says, I can't do this. I cannot do this. I cannot give these people the death penalty for no reason at all. And I'm not talking just about drugs. Drugs is a death penalty. That's what these people were doing. Every one of them was doing it in a different way. Bashar in Syria was doing the same thing. I'll never forget the happiness of the friends I have, the Syrian friends, who were doing the same thing when Bashar was taken out. These people should not get to where they are. They should not get to that level without proper voting. Say what you say about democracy. I don't care if democracy is, I don't think that there is a better system. Or if there is, it has not been created yet. But you don't bring someone and say, okay, this person can go and become a ruler on us and let the power corrupt them, and there is nothing you can do to take that power away from them. Whatever we have, this country has good presidents and bad presidents, but we get over it and we go to the next president. We have the power of voting, and we get to the next level. So now today, when I see what's happened in Venezuela, I'm just happy, and I feel like emotional about the people that he hurt. And just like it reminds me of how Iraqis felt and Syrian felt and all these other countries that had these dictators that just comes in there and destroys them, destroys their own people. That's what I don't get. Now, if I have an enemy as a neighbor and I can't stand them and we're having fights and whatever, even though I think that we should negotiate and talk and find a common ground and find peace, but still I can understand that we have disagreements and we can't stand each other. But to do that to your own family, why isn't it why aren't these people thinking that this land, the people that live on this land are my family? I cannot do this to them. These people are part of me. And that's what I'm doing. When I hurt them, I'm hurting me. Why are they these people that actually feel pleasure out of hurting their own people? Now, I'm not gonna give you an analogy about narcissism and how people with that mentality do that to their own families anyway, because that's a whole new subject, different subject. But I'm talking about these dictators that come in, and there are so many of them over history. But the bottom line is we allow someone who we give them power. Iraqi people used to always say, we made Saddam. We were the ones who got him to that level. We were the one who elevated him to get to that level, and then we regretted it because once he got to that powerful place, there was nothing we can do about it. There's 20 million people. He's willing to hurt every one of them just for his own personal benefit. That's how it was in Saddam, in Iraq. Just think about that. Take a moment and think about it. If I wanted to do anything in my life, the one thing I want to do is make sure that every country has a fair and balanced voting rights, a fair and balanced way of living, to where, okay, well, we didn't win. The person I voted for did not win, but that's okay. I can wait 4 years, 6 years, whatever that Constitution says, and then I'll vote again. In the meantime, I'm going to win as many people as possible on my side, sell them on my idea, and then that just by itself gives us power, gives us feeling that we can change the world. If I didn't get the president that I wanted, that I voted for, from now until the next presidency, I'm going to sit and talk and sell the idea, let people understand why this vote was not the right one. Let's vote for a better president next time. Those Iraqis, Syrian, and Venezuelans did not have that chance. All they did is wake up in the morning and say, what is it gonna what's next gonna happen to me today? Am I gonna live? Am I gonna die? What is he gonna do to hurt me even more? And that's not, human beings should not be living like that. I don't care where you live, where you are. We are all human and we all have rights. People talk about the United States, the Bill of Rights, whatever. These rights, these human rights, should be available to everybody in the world, globally, regardless of what country. Think about that. Be happy for the Venezuelans right today, and pray for them to have a better life very soon, and have the new country, the new president, the new era will be better for them. I hope they don't go through what Iraqis went through in order to get to a better place. Iraq is better today, but they went through 20 years of horrible times in order to get to where they are. It's not out of the woods yet, but it is better than 5-10 years ago. I hope that makes things clearer to all of the people here in the United States that do not understand that mentality of how we need to support these kind of coups, these kind of removal of power, these kind of change in governments, and get to the point where everybody can have a vote, no matter where you live in the world. And have a great day. Thanks for listening.